It's the Arch Advocate Show for Tuesday, August 14th. We've got a lot to get to. Cryptocurrency market. We're going to talk a little bit about that today. But first, Peter Strzoke. All right, listen. Peter Strzoke just raised $200,000 in less than a day. Right? At the moment, his GoFundMe has been running for 16 hours. And he's currently at the time of this recording, he's currently standing at $198,000. 198,322. All right. Now, there's a number of things that are very telling about this. But first, I would like to point out that yesterday, when this started, when this GoFundMe campaign was opened, the goal of the GoFundMe, because when you set up a GoFundMe, there has to be a goal. And I don't remember specifically, but the goal was either $100,000 or it was $150,000. But I should have screenshotted it, done a screenshot, but I didn't. It was one of those two, and I'm leaning more towards $100,000 even. And he had raised, within a couple of hours, he raised $45,000, and now the goal has been switched to $350,000. Now, why is this important, right? How is this me talking about this? How is this not tabloid news, right? Because obviously there is a certain element to this story which is just fingernails on a chalkboard, right? It's just annoying. And that's tabloid news, right? Oh, here, I'm going to tell you this sensational thing that's going to annoy the crap out of you and get an emotional response out of you, and therefore you'll probably keep coming back to my show because this kind of thing invokes an emotional response. Listen, I don't want to do that, right? There is underlying things to this that are, okay. I've said this many times before. This is very frustrating for me because it's like, how is it, a lot of times you look at things and you think like, well, I can see what's going on here. How is it that not everybody can see what's going on here, right? Okay, Peter Strzoke worked for the FBI, working for the FBI for over 20 years, 21 years and some change, right? I believe that's the last thing I saw. He worked for the FBI for over 20 years and his employment was terminated, right? Now, normally this is complete speculation, all right? Let me just start off by saying that it's complete speculation. But normally, even in a case where your employment is terminated, you still get to keep your pension, right? It's only in times where, like, if you were charged with a crime, something like that, then you would lose your pension. There's been no crime alleged here. He was fired because it was clear that he had biases and he was using his power inappropriately and what have you. But he was fired. Is there any indication that his pension, right, his sweet FBI 20-year pension, like, those people are paid well for government employees. There's no word that he's in any sort of financial danger here, right? If he was being accused of a crime and whatever, which he's not been, that would be different. But the only thing here is that he got fired, right? Peter Strzoke, a man who has spent his entire life, this is what's on his GoFundMe, his entire life working to help us keep our nation safe, has been fired. He needs your help. Oh, really? For what? For the last year, Pete, his work, and his character have been the target of highly politicized attacks. Well, then don't be highly political. Including frequent slander statements from President Trump, who actively and apparently successfully pressured the FBI officials to fire Pete. Here's the thing, all right? This is clearly written by his lawyers, right? It's even written in that narrative where it's like, obviously, Peter Strzoke did not write this plea for money himself. And it's quite lengthy. I'm not going to read the whole thing. This is the third paragraph in. The first paragraph is 2 sentences. The second paragraph is one big long sentence. And here's the third paragraph. Let me read this to you. All right, this is what I want to get into. All funds raised on this GoFundMe will be put into a trust dedicated to covering Pete's hefty and growing legal costs and his lost income. Okay, legal costs. What legal costs? Has he been accused of a crime? Or are you saying he's mounting a lawsuit? Right? Right? It can only be one of those two. If he's got Mount Hefty and mounting Pete's hefty and growing legal costs and his lost income. Okay, well, did he lose income? Does he not get his pension? Did he get screwed out of his pension? Like a cop that got caught being dirty? Did he lose income? Right? The trust is being created and the details about its management will be shared here as things progress. We appreciate your help spreading the word about this GoFundMe by sharing this link. So all right. Alleging lost income, right? Pete's hefty and growing legal costs. What legal costs? Is he being sued? Is he being accused of a crime? Right? Does he no longer have access to FBI lawyers? What do you need this money for? Right? Now look, maybe he does. Maybe he's up against it, right? So then, I guess the next question would be is like, well, maybe it's a bad idea to attack somebody to drain them of their financial resources by using the law, right? Leftists, are you saying that you have a problem with that? Because that's probably a can of worms you don't want to open right now, because you're filthy. Anyways, look. You said you needed $100,000. You got $200,000, and so you just moved the goalpost, right? Now you need $350,000. You said you needed $100,000 for your growing legal cost. That number has tripled, over tripled, in less than 16 hours. Your financial needs went from $100,000 to $350,000 in 16 hours. That's not what's happening here. This is what's happening here. Peter Strzoke has gotten a smidge of fame, right? There is a hatred for conservatives, for Christians, for Republicans, anybody who is to the right of RuPaul. There's a hatred in this country by a large number of people, but I wouldn't say like a majority, but certainly a lot of people. And so he used this opportunity now that he was being thrust into the light, right? Oh, spotlight on Peter Strzoke. He just got fired. Oh, I know what to do. Let's capitalize on this since this is going to be in the news. We have one shot at this. This is going to, because we have a 24-hour news cycle, we have maybe 3 days to make some money off of the fact that you're going to be in the news, right? Let's get that money. Let's put up a GoFundMe and tell people like, oh, you've got these hefty and growing legal costs and lost income, which is vague, which means that if there turns out to be no legal costs, all he has to say is, well, I raised that money because I lost my income, which technically would be true, right? Whenever you quit your job or get fired from your job and there's pensions involved, it takes a while before that pension activates, and then they give you like a retroactive, because it takes, particularly in bureaucracies, like it takes a while before that money starts flowing in. But this is just a disgusting, it's just a disgusting money grab, right? And look, my man Edgar Bevins is about to have surgery. Oh, by the way, Edgar Bevins is trying to raise $4,000, not $1,000. I kept saying $1,000 on yesterday's podcast. I apologize. He needs $4,000, right? Like, I'm not to the point right now where I have a big enough audience where I can say, hey, dude, like, here's this dude. He's a good dude. Like, why don't you throw $5-10 over his way? And here's Peter Strzoke. He's got $25, $10, $50, $10, $5, $50, $5, $10. You know what I mean? Like, this guy is so famous, like, for nothing, by the way. You know what I mean? Like, he's not like an actor or a singer or something. Like, he's just some guy that's been in the news, and leftists, they love him for some reason. But this guy has just enough fame to to where he, for whatever reason, he gets to be on TV and people get to see his face, and all of a sudden he can just raise $200,000 in 16 hours, right? And I can't raise, I don't have a big enough platform where I can say, like, no, here's an actual, like, good dude who's gonna have surgery and he's gonna lose some money for about 4 weeks because he's gonna have to lay around in bed and heal up, whatever. Like, that bugs me. That bugs me that this guy can just do that, right? It's not even so much like that he's able to do that. It's that people fall for it, right? So again, I'm not trying to give you like a tabloid news story. I want to point out, like, people don't ask questions. You have to ask questions. It's the way to the truth, right? When you look at something like this, somebody's asking for money. There's no problem there, right? Americans are a very generous people. Some would say, I would say, the most generous people on the planet. Easily. I don't have a problem with somebody saying, hey, look, man, I lost my job, I need some money. No problem there, right? But then there comes the questions. Like, oh, okay, why do you need this money? Oh, because of my mounting legal expenses. What legal expenses? Are you okay? That sounds horrible. Legal expenses are very expensive. Are you being sued? Are you being accused of a crime? Like, do you have to go hire defense? There's none of that in here. It's just legal defenses, or hefty and growing legal costs, and his local. Oh, you mean the legal cost where he had to pay an attorney to write this well-crafted article to be posted on a GoFundMe page? That legal expense? What legal expense? I've not heard of Peter Strzoke being accused of a crime. I'm pretty sure Fox News would have been blowing that horn, blowing that shofar as loud as they could if there was an actual, crime being alleged or a lawsuit in place. Hefty and growing legal expense. Are you saying that you're about to mount a lawsuit against the FBI for firing you? Well, that's not a growing legal expense. That's a self-imposed legal expense, right? You're a 21-year guy. You made it. You got your pension. You know what I mean? Now you're gonna reach out. Are you saying you're gonna sue the FBI? Because kind of what it sounds like to me is that if he collects his $350,000 and God forbid they move the goalpost again and bump it up to a cool $500,000, all you would have to do to avoid being prosecuted for lying on a GoFundMe page for why you were raising, all you would have to say is, well, I had to pay my lawyers to create the GoFundMe page. You know what I mean? Ta-da! Legal expenses, hefty and growing. You wouldn't have an argument in court. You know what I mean? The judge would have to be like, well, I guess that is a legal expense. But people don't ask questions. People don't ask questions, man. This is a epidemic of stupidity. Some of you guys know, like, I had a guest on the show a few weeks back, Sam, who is a corporate lawyer in Manhattan. All right, he graduated from one of the most prestigious law schools in the United States. I'm not going to say which one because I don't, he's still a friend. I don't want to dox him. You know what I mean? I don't want people to be able to find out like what his actual identity is. Some of you have figured it out. Don't be writing shit to Sam. All right, don't say bad things to Sam. Like, he's wherever he's at in his head. But like, and not only did he graduate from one of the most prestigious law schools in the United States, they paid him to go there. He got a full ride scholarship. It was worth almost $200,000 itself. It was like $160,000. They paid him to go to that school. That's how smart he is, right? And yet, I posted something to his Facebook page yesterday. I was like, did you see that there was a terrorist and is a radical Islamic terrorist training camp on U.S. soil? A terrorist training camp is a problem no matter where it is in the world. It's a million times bigger of a problem if it's happening on your soil. and the fact that that guy that was running it had a 1 degree of separation from the former president of the United States. That same degree of separation, his father was tied to the original World Trade Center bombings in the early 1990s. He had a 1 degree of separation from that bombing and a 1 degree separation from the President of the United States. And I posted that to Sam's page, and he writes me back. He's like, "Oh, I don't know anything about this." What do you mean you don't know anything about this? How is this possible? Is there, you know what I mean? When you see stuff like that, it's like, okay, well, I guess I have to ask myself some questions. Because I can't believe that Sam's going to lie to me. I can't believe that. I can't believe that about my fellow man. Right? I have to believe that people are telling me the truth. Right? Like in Peter Strzoke's case, it's like, well, I have to believe that you're telling the truth, that you have mounting legal fees. Where are those legal fees coming from? Are they coming from the White House? Are they coming from the FBI? Because I've not heard a peep. Where are they coming from? I'm going to have to believe you. I'm going to have to believe that you need this $350,000 for something. What do you need it for? Right? Sam says to me, I've never heard of this. Really? A radical Islam terrorist training camp being run in the United States. You've not heard of this. Well then, there must be a reason why. Is it possible that there is a correlation between where you choose to get your news from and what you know? Right? Because that was the big beef yesterday I was talking about. It's like, wait a minute, so at CNN, MSNBC, NBC, ABC, the Huffington Post, you know what I mean, the Washington Post, whatever, that was not a newsworthy story. You didn't think that the American people needed to know. Needed. I'm using that word. You need to know that. That's what's going down in Chinatown. I don't know why I just said that. That was stupid. That's what's going down. That's what's happening in America right now. There is a terrorist training camp that had been operating for God knows how long in the United States, on our soil. And yet the left is like, oh, it's a Muslim ban. We can't have a Muslim ban. That's Islamophobic. They found dead kids there, dummy. Right? There are people who have ideologies that are not compatible with ours, and they must not be let in. Right? Because when we do let them in, they go and they post up, they buy a little land, right? How this guy got that money, who knows? But they go and they buy a big plot of land in Taos. Okay, here's another thing. That was in Taos, New Mexico, right? This was not in El Paso, Texas, on the New Mexico border. If you've ever driven across the I-10, right, driven through El Paso is one of like the most like broke, dirty, you know what I mean? That's just a poor place. There's a lot of places in New Mexico that are like that. There's just no money, right? But Taos isn't one of them. All right. Like, you know, if you go to Salt Lake, if you go to Utah, what would you expect to see? I don't know, a bunch of Mormons. But if you go to Park City, Utah, there's no Mormons and there's nothing but rich people. And I'm talking like super rich people. That's what Taos is. Taos is like the Jackson Hole, Wyoming. You know what I mean? Wyoming has like 500,000 people total. Right? But Jackson Hole, it's just full of art galleries and like, you know, it's just a place where rich people went and they posted up and they made that place just like a hub of wealthy people. And therefore the land, like, you want to live in Wyoming, it's dirt cheap if you want to live there. If you want to live in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, you better be balling out of control because that land is super expensive. It's the same thing with Taos. Now, how did they afford land in Taos? Why did they post up there where all the rich people are? Right? Where rich people have homes that they've never even visited except for maybe once, you know? Like, you have no question. So anyways, let me get off that rant. Like, So Sam says that now Sam again, super intellect, right? Super smart dude. A very prestigious law school paid him to attend there. Right? He's a corporate lawyer in Manhattan. Right? It's not the same thing as being a corporate lawyer in Butte, Montana. He's a corporate lawyer in the place where like all the money happens, you know. And he says to me like, "Oh, you know, I haven't heard of this. You didn't hear about this. You don't have any argument. You don't have anything to say about this." That's amazing to me. Because it means one of two things and neither of them are good. It means that either A, you truly have not heard about this because you only take your news from people that you want to hear it from. And therefore you have been led into ignorance about a terrorist training camp on our soil. I can't, like, I'm trying to find a more, like, vehement way of saying that. Like, a way of saying that phrase so that I can make other people as repulsed by that as I am. And I feel like my words are falling short of that. There was an Islamist terrorist group training camp where they were teaching children how to shoot up schools on U.S. soil. On U.S. soil. Okay, all right. You know what that's like? And I don't want to be over the top here, but it would be like if the news came out tomorrow, right, that a foreign nuclear weapon had been detonated on U.S. soil, right? That's what that would be like, minus the radiation. That's what that would be like. Everybody would be, you know what I mean? Everybody would be shocked and weeping and demanding answers. And CNN just, nothing to see here, folks. I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's happening anymore. What do you mean you haven't heard about this? And then you have the audacity to say that President Trump is attacking the media as a whole when he calls CNN fake news? And Jim Acosta fake news? What news was CNN broadcasting when this was going on? When Fox News was over here saying, hey, look, everybody, you remember those people that attacked us on September 11th of 2001? They're here. They're property owners and they're running camps. But, you know, it's baffling. It's baffling to me. Peter Strzoke says, oh, I'm going to be in the light for at least 3 days. I'm going to cash in, homie. 350 grand. It's insane. Okay, listen. All right, here's one more, and then I'll get into the cryptocurrency market and my thoughts on that, because it's big. But, here's another thing, right? Now, the left, they love anything that smells of bad news for Donald Trump, right? So here's this lady, Omerosa, which sounds like a sexy drink. You know what I mean? What'll it be? Says the bartender. I'll have an Omerosa on ice, right? Omerosa, who was made famous because of a reality television show that Donald Trump ran, that he owned. That was his brand. She decides that she's going to make a recording of the president and his cohorts in the Situation Room. Now, for those of you that don't know, whenever there is a military decision that has to be made by the president, right, which would be like, hey, Mr. President, like, we need to kill these people with some F-18s and some bombs, but, we got to get the order from you. That happens in the Situation Room, right? The Situation Room is the holy of holies. That's where all the the heavy decisions get made and implemented, right? So taking a recording device into that room is the same thing of like trying to sneak a gun onto an airplane. It's like, dude, why would you do that? You know the rules. There's no guns on an airplane. There's no snakes on an airplane. There's no doing that. You can't do that. Like, how are you so dumb? Like, you just put yourself in a situation where you will most likely be tried as a criminal. There's no civil suit there, baby. Right? There's no getting out of this with just losing all your money and being broke for the rest of your life. That would be a godsend if that happened. Because what you did is a crime. And the left, again, it's like, okay, I understand that you hate the president. Do you understand what she did? Do you understand that this is going to end up very bad for her? There is, other than President Trump just suddenly becoming very forgiving, there's no situation where this works out well for her. You took a recording device into the Situation Room, right? Where, I don't know, there's probably nuclear secrets being discussed, strategies, top secret level stuff going on. You decide you're going to take in your phone and hit the record button. Like, lady, you're so dumb. That's so dumb that you deserve to get what you're going to get. It's just like if somebody tries to sneak a gun onto a plane and then, in comes Homeland Security and they arrest him and throw him in jail. It's like, yeah, you asked for that, dummy. You knew you couldn't do that. Anyways, it's just a weird just ask the questions. Like, if you're out there and you're watching Fox News or CNN or Ben Shapiro or the Young Turks or Steven Crowder or H3 or whatever it is that you're into, you have to get into the habit of asking questions, even if it hurts, right? When you see these people, it's like you see what Omerosa did. It's like, despite all the facts, right? Like, and we don't really know what the facts are. We haven't heard the recording. We have no idea what actually happened, except for one thing, that she took a recording device into the Situation Room. That's pretty much all we know, and that's all you need to know to start asking some very deep questions like, why would you do that? Why would you think that you could do that and use whatever you recorded and get away with it? Oh, he was saying some very racist things. Guess what, sweetheart? Saying racist stuff isn't against the law. So what do you have? What do you think you have? You think, okay, so maybe let's just say in the worst possible scenario that what she has, according to her, is Donald Trump saying racist stuff. Let's just say it's Donald Trump dropping N-bombs every third word. Not a crime, lady. Not a crime. What are you going to do? You going to sue him? Huh? It's not a crime to say those things. I don't believe that that's what you have, but even if it is, even if that's the thing that you have, because that's what she's claiming. She's like, oh, he said the N-word a bunch of times, said a bunch of racist stuff. That's what she's claiming she has. Okay. What do you think you have then? What do you think you have? Peter Strzoke, why are you using this opportunity to raise a bunch of money? What do you need it for? Why are you waiting until just now? Are you saying that 16 hours ago when you were fired, all of a sudden you have growing legal costs? Where did they come from? Which goes into my next point, the cryptocurrency market. All right? Now look, to the crypto creeps, I know some of you are kind of upset, that I changed the format of the show. But look, from very late December / early January, there was $800 billion, 800 of them very nearly $1 trillion in the cryptocurrency market. And today, there's 194 billion. Okay, so that's over $600 billion that has been washed through the cryptocurrency market. It was in one place and then it went to another place. I had a number of interviews, people from Enigma, people from local coin swap, and so on and so forth. Right? And there was a common thread in all of those interviews that I had. And it was that socialist rhetoric. Right? When people start talking about socialism or socialist concepts, like I understand immediately, it's like, oh, you don't know how money works. You don't know how money works. You think that if you, and this is what they literally think, and Sam, Lawyer Sam, said this on a different post, because I was shit posting him all day yesterday, in between doing my duties, but socialists think that if you just give people money, then that's going to cure their poverty, right? If the problem is somebody doesn't have money, then the solution is giving them money. That kind of makes sense, right? Like if you don't know how anything works, that makes perfect sense. Well, the problem is that guy doesn't have any money. If we give him money, then he'll have money. Problem solved. Right? That's how socialists think. And it doesn't work that way. As a matter of fact, we've known economic principles now for going all the way back to ancient Babylon. And even before that, there are principles in economics that mankind has figured out. And King Solomon wrote about one of those. And it goes like this, and pardon me if I misquote it, but it says, an unearned gain will not be unpunished. Now, that's a really strange, you always, like, when you're reading scripture, it's kind of like reading scriptures is like reading Shakespeare, right? You have to slow your mind down and take every word in and ask yourself, what does this word mean? You know what I mean? Why is this word significant? Shakespeare is just like that. Like if you read Shakespeare, it takes 20 minutes, a half an hour before your brain switches over into Shakespeare mode, because it's a lot of really fluffy big words and it's written in a cadence that's not familiar to us. And Shakespeare was just an absolute smith, just a wordsmith, right? But it's difficult, it's hard on your brain. And so when you see things that stick out, you have to stop and say, okay, well, what does this mean? Why did he use that word? An unearned, and it's something like, whatever, I'm going to misquote it, but an unearned gain will not go unpunished. He uses the word punish there. That if you get money that you yourself did not have to work for, that you did not earn, right? I'm talking about like listen, there's charitable things, right? Like what Peter Strzoke is doing is he's the reason I hold it in such contempt is because he's calling on people's nature to be compassionate, right? And that's not where compassion belongs, right? Compassion belongs on the other side, where it's like when you're in a community and one of the members of your community goes down, you go over to that person and you make sure that they have groceries and money for their heating and electricity and those sort of things. You realize like, oh, this is one of our own. We're going to come behind and prop this person up. When you give that person that money, that's not like an unearned gain. Like economically speaking, they're not gaining from it. They're just being supported until they can get back up on their feet, right? Like Edgar Bevan's asking for people to help him out with $4,000. It's like he's not asking for money to go blow on the ponies or to pay for legal expenses. He's not even asking for money to pay for medical expenses. He's saying, look, I'm going to be down for 4 weeks. I'm not going to be producing an income for 4 weeks. Can you help a brother out? Can you help Anilla? Right? And why did I just say all this? The constant threads as I did those interviews with people that were at the companies in the cryptocurrency market is they all had that same idea, where it's like, oh, we're gonna cure poverty by making all this money in the cryptocurrency market. It's like, how? Well, or we're gonna make it more even playing field. Okay, how? How is you acquiring billions of dollars? How's that gonna help farmers in North Africa, in Somalia? Right? Is all this if you take a whole bunch of bags of money to Somalia and just give it to the poor people there, that's how you're going to cure poverty? Just give a whole bunch of people money? Listen, there are economic principles to why that doesn't work. I could go into it, right? That statement from King Solomon, that like people who get money that they didn't earn, right? They'll be punished. It's talking about investment and earning as it applies to like your occupation, like stealing. If you steal, that's money that you gained that you did not earn, right? Getting an inheritance without having the training on how to handle that money. You know what I mean? Like that sort of thing. Like, you'll be punished, is what King Solomon says. And there's economic principles to that they teach in economics class to this day. You cannot enrich people. You can't cure poverty with money, ironically, right? And there are many, many paradoxes like that in life, right? The way you cure poverty is you teach people how to work and how to use their creative core and how to monetize that. Like, oh, are you good at math? Are you good at music? Are you good at writing? Or what are you good at? What do you like to do? Oh, I like to go fishing. Okay, then be a fisherman. Fishermen make lots of money. Why? Because a lot of people like to eat fish. Whatever. You know what I mean? Do what you like to do. Find your creative core and work hard at that, and then you can join the rest of the world. And these people, every time I was talking to these people, it was like, man, you're talking like a socialist. This isn't going to work. You're going to fail because socialism fails. That's what it does. And it does it over and over and over again. And the fact that you're here showing up again saying, let's just give it another try. It's like, dude, you're dumb and you're going to lose. And what's worse is you're going to hurt a lot of other people, because that's what socialism also always does. It hurts a lot of people. And now there's $600 billion missing out of the cryptocurrency market. And that's what I was getting at, was like, well, okay, well, where did it go? 600 billion. Let me put this in perspective for you. There are 1,400, roughly 1,400 billionaires in the world. 1,400 people. That's less than your, like, a decent sized church in your local area, right? Or the gym at your local high school can fit probably 2,000 people. There are approximately 1,400 people on this planet that have $1 billion or more, right? You could fit that many people probably in your backyard and in your house if you squeezed them really hard. There's not very many people that have $1 billion. So $600 billion changed hands. So question, where did it go? Are there suddenly a whole bunch of brand new individuals that are billionaires? Are there? I haven't heard any. There could be. For all I know, there could be. But I haven't heard anything about it, and I've been looking. And let's just take it, you say, well, Pete, come on. I mean, it's, you're saying, are there individuals who are, what if, these individuals they own companies? Okay. Are there a whole bunch of brand new companies in the cryptocurrency space, what was I thinking of? Not Ethereum, but Enigma, right? Enigma is a company. Are they a multi-billion-dollar company now? Right? Do you have here? Let's just look it up. I'll look it up right now. Enigma. They're worth 50 cents off of the high of $8. Okay, so that's not where that money went. Where did that money go? Right, I think when we had them on, they were at like $6 or $6.50, and now it's 50 cents. Where'd that money go? That money went somewhere, and I don't know where it went. And I'm pretty good at this stuff. There is $600 billion unaccounted for. Where did it go? There's no regulation in this market. There's no oversight. And what's worse is everybody seems to be against having those two things. Remember all those times, like, look, I kept saying, like, look, I know Warren Buffett, he might be wrong. He was wrong about Amazon.com, right? He said some things about Amazon.com that didn't work out. So maybe he's wrong about the cryptocurrency market. Fair. But you cannot dismiss the wisdom in what he's saying. Because if you go back to what Warren Buffett said about Amazon.com at the time that he said it, he was absolutely right. He was dead on balls accurate. Amazon was trading it at like $100 per share, and it was only worth $4. And he said, somebody asked him, like, why don't you buy some Amazon? He's like, because it's worth $4. If I want it, it's going to cost me $100. That's stupid. I'm not going to do that. What he said was right. But just long term, it all worked out for Jeff Bezos, but that doesn't make him wrong. And there was all of this. Every time I'd open up the news on cryptocurrencies, it was like, oh, Warren Buffett, this old fuddy-duddy, this old man. Look at this old man. He's an old brontosaurus. He just needs to go away. Man, these old people are the problem. It's like, dude, the old people have the wisdom. The old people have the stories. You're going to take the wisest man who ever lived, as far as we know, when it comes to the area of investments. Warren Buffett is not the richest man in the world. What he is the richest investor in the world. There is no investor, right? It's like, Bill Gates, when he was the richest man in the world, like 5 years running or whatever it was like, he was the richest man in the world, but he was the richest, like, business owner. That's not the same thing as investor. Bill Gates was not an investor. He was the owner of one thing. I'm sure he had other investments, but he wasn't known for that. He was known for owning Microsoft. That's different, right? The wealthiest female in the world in the 90s or the 2000s was a lady who was the heiress of the Corona brewing company, Corona beer, right? She wasn't the wealthiest person in the world. She was the wealthiest beer owner in the world. You know what I mean? Like, you have to give credit where credit is due. And Warren Buffett is the wealthiest investor who ever lived, as far as we know. Right? As far as history bears out. And every time I pull up the news, whenever Warren Buffett spoke, there was this weird vibe from, I'm assuming, young people, saying, oh, it is just some old man. He's stuck in his old grumpy capitalist blah, blah, blah. It's like, you son of a bitch, you're talking about the priest of investing. You're not going to heed his words? I'm not saying don't put your money in cryptocurrencies, but just understand that the smartest guy in the world when it comes to this is saying don't do it. So when you do put your money into cryptocurrencies, if you lose, if you want to find out why you lost, you could probably just go back and find out what Warren Buffett was saying. You know what I mean? Because he's the wise man. He's the oracle. He's literally called the oracle. What is it? The Oracle of Omaha or something like that. I got tired of hearing it. It's like, please just give me some news. Can I just see people approaching the news objectively? People were responding to what Warren Buffett was saying purely emotionally, and that's dangerous. When you're working with your money, you have to remove emotions from it, man. And now you're never going to be completely successful in that because there's an emotional thing. You know, you're going to become emotionally charged when you put your money on the line. But you have to do everything that you can to separate yourself from your emotions, particularly when you're listening to wise men. And if they're saying things that hurt your feelings, that hurt your brain when you hear them, you're the one who's in the wrong. And you need to stop and slow down and think, like, whoa, why is he saying this? There must be a reason why this great and wise and powerful man is saying these things. And there were people that would be like, oh, he's just saying that because this is a threat to his income. There is no threat to Warren Buffett's income. There is no threat to Warren Buffett's income. He and what's his name? Charlie Munger. Like him and Charlie, they own I think 800 businesses. There is nothing that can take down Warren Buffett and his fortune. He is completely shielded by diversity. You think that guy's talking crap about cryptocurrencies because he's afraid? Okay, all right. Right, there comes a point to where you just hit a wall and you realize that the people that you're talking to they've just lost their sense of reason. There's no compass. You know what I mean? Like there's no look, I'm here in America, right? And I'm I want to believe that socialism works, and Bernie Sanders should be president, and Miss Cortez should be his vice president, and we should all be socialists. It's like, okay, it's fine. Now you have to explain yourself. You have to say why. All right? Well, I just want people to have more money. Okay, me too. Why? Like how are you going to accomplish that? Well, we're going to do things like raise the minimum wage. Okay, cool. What are you going to do when the people who pay minimum wage raise the prices on their goods to offset the fact that they now have to, pay their employees more money? Well, I'm just going to put in price controls. Oh, I see. So you're going to control the prices of what producers and distributors sell on their prices. Well, how will you react to that when the cost of transportation fluctuates? And now the person who sells the widget or the Big Mac or whatever it is that minimum wage employers sell, Starbucks, what are you going to do when all of a sudden there's a spike in diesel gasoline and the cost of cross-continental transportation skyrockets? And now that person who's trying to sell that cup of coffee or that hamburger, they have to pay twice what they paid last week for the same thing. Oh, we're going to regulate the cost of, you know what I mean? Like that nightmare never ends. There are so many moving parts to an economy, and when you say, so let's go back to how you intend to give people more money by raising the minimum wage. Now that you've had just 10 seconds of variables being thrown at you, now, how are you going to raise the minimum wage? You're going to regulate it all? You're going to regulate the price that the owner of the McDonald's sells his Big Mac for. Okay, great. So now you have to also regulate the price of, John the truck driver who owns his own business, but it's only that one truck, and he has to pay for his own gas to haul those frozen burgers and frozen French fries. He has to pay out of pocket to drive those goods down to that McDonald's. And when he arrives there, he puts the cost of transportation into that bill. He says, you owe me for hours, you owe me for tires, You owe me for diesel gasoline. You owe me all this stuff. And he has a nut, is what we call it. He's got a nut. He has a certain amount of money that he has to make. And that amount of money that he has to make is largely decided by the cost of diesel gasoline. And from time to time, there are refinery fires, there are wars in the Middle East, there are, Saudi princes who just get a bug up their ass and they decide, today we're gonna, restrict supply and drive the cost way up. So how do you fix John, the sole proprietor of John's trucking company, or even worse, what do you do about Swift or Covenant or any of these other huge trucking companies where they have thousands of trucks? Are you going to regulate the cost of diesel gasoline? It's not in your control to do that. You've got Saudi Arabia is a problem. You've got Venezuela is a problem. Venezuela, I believe, is still number one for oil reserves on the planet. And I don't know if you've heard this, but they're not doing great right now. Right? These people have control over the price of oil. A certain amount of control. So what do you know what I mean? And so when you talk with these people about well, how are you going to fix it? Well, I'm just going to give people more money. Then you will be punished. And they will be punished. I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but with the Native Americans, we gave them casinos. Guess what? You go look at any one of those reservations that has had a casino for any amount of time, and you will see that proverb being lived out. Those people are being cosmically punished. The rate of alcoholism and drug abuse has skyrocketed. The rate of unwed pregnancies, the rates of suicide. It's devastated those people because it's all unearned money. You didn't earn it. And so that was one of the big problems I was having with the cryptocurrency market is this is all political. There's a bunch of nonsense going on here, and now there's $600 billion that's just missing. Where did it go? Did it go to Enigma? Oh, nope. No, it didn't go to Enigma. Well, who did it go to? Where are these 600 brand new billionaires? Where are they? Where are these 600 new companies that are now worth $1 billion? Or whatever. Where did that money go? And the answer is nobody knows. And that's a lot of damn money. That's a lot of money to have out there being unaccounted for. So be careful. Be careful out there, crypto enthusiast. There are some shenanigans going on. And I think if the nation was not so divided right now and so busy with other more pressing news stories, I think we would have people investigating, and maybe the SEC is investigating it because again, you see money shifting around like that. That draws attention, and I don't know what's in the future for cryptocurrencies. Maybe it'll all work out. I mean, the fact is that Bitcoin has maintained half of the market share. Right? There's less than $200 billion in the market right now, and Bitcoin has half of it. So that's a pretty good sign. But who knows? I got very frustrated. Anyways, the point is that everybody I talked to that was these heads of these companies, they were all knuckleheads. I had the guy, I won't say who it was, but I had the guy on, and when we were not recording, he says to me the reason I'm not going to explain what we're actually doing here is because then it would be a novelty, and we don't want people to be able to understand it because then it won't be amazing to them anymore. I was like, that's the stupidest shit I ever heard. That is counter what we are taught in economics and politics classes. That's not how that works. If you want people to buy your product, the onus is on you to be able to explain it to anybody at any time, including a third grader. You have to be able to explain what it is that you're selling so that the listener can understand it. And if you can't do that, then it's a sign that A, you don't understand it, or B, you're trying to pull one over. Anyways, that's the show for today. The world is a crazy place, but community, man. You have to come together. Come together. Ask questions. Dig deep into the art of asking questions. Why is Peter Strzoke asking for all this money? Why did Omerosa think she could just walk into the Situation Room with a recording device? And what is it that she thinks she's got? Oh, he said a bunch of racist things. Not against the law. It's not against the law. I don't believe that. In fact, I know for a fact that Donald Trump is not a racist, even if he did say the N. I've said the N-word many, many, many times in my life. I'm not a racist. Right? What does she think she has? Oh, this is going to be the nail in the coffin. What nail? What coffin? What are you doing? Where did the $600 billion go? It went somewhere. Where did it go? You know what I mean? Ask the questions. That's the whole point. Thanks for tuning in. Hey, if you want to support the show, if you want to support Edgar Bevins, whatever, man, go on to archadvocate.com, arch-advocate.com. Go on to the PayPal or the Patreon link, whatever your flavor is. Throw a little dough in. If you want to support Edgar Bevins, go on to my Twitter page, which can be found at the bottom of archadvocate.com. It is the pinned tweet, his GoFundMe page. Don't give money to Peter Strzoke. Give some dough to Edgar Bevins. He's a good dude. He's one of us. That's it. Enjoy the rest of your day. I will talk to you tomorrow.